Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Tactical Tuesday this week.
And you heard our chit chat, so you got
hilarious.
an early preview. So hey guys, hey. Welcome. Today we are talking about headlines and all of that other scary, crazy stuff that we hear all about, and what do we do with it? What kind of, what do we do with that kind of information?
We're coming to you as well from our new newsroom that we have created. No, I'm just kidding. It's just just a background. But that's what we're talking about today, guys, is belief. What do we think of when we hear that word? So today is going to be very interesting because we're going to first of all define what it is. We're going to talk about why it's important. We're going to talk about 3 things that can erode our belief in real estate investment. That's why we're here, guys. It's to take fear out of real estate investment. But what erodes that belief? And then we're going to talk about 3 things that will help us to build up our belief in real estate investment. 3 things we can rely upon once we start having a little bit of fear.
Right, Hermel? Like, that's what we're hearing. Sell it all, get out, you missed the boat, all of these things. We've heard it so many times, though, in our 18 years that it seems like, for us, it's just meh, whatever. But we've had some discussions in Ignited lately where we're seeing that, we forget that those headlines still are scary when you first start to hear them. And this is probably the first time that a lot of you guys are hearing this, because since this new wave of investment has come into the Canadian space, we've only seen, markets going up and interest rates going down. That's all that there has been in the last 7-8 years. But before that, we saw a whole lot more. So it gets a little scary for sure.
So what keeps us going? What keeps us going? What keeps us on the path that we know we need to stay on? Well, as Tiff mentioned, all of these negative things tend to sidetrack us, bump us off that road that we were on. We've been doing this for 18, 19 years now. And I got to be honest with you, when I see the news, sometimes I open up Google News, that sort of thing, guys, sometimes I'm wondering, what the heck should we be doing here? Should we be making changes? What's going on? How is this going to affect us in the future? So all of these doubts start to come up into our minds. And so as you guys go through this journey, whether you've been doing this for a long time or whether you're brand new to real estate investment, belief in the process, belief in the system, belief in that this strategy works is something that you need to keep strong. And so that's really why it's the focus of what we're talking about today.
So thanks for saying hi as you guys jump on. If you are watching this live, that's awesome. If you're watching on the replay, type in replay for us so that we can keep track of you as well. That would be fantastic. But yeah, we got everyone from Tony and Chris, Sean and Andrea, Mike Hill. I don't know where you're from, Mike. But I mean, we got lots of Easterners, Jane, lots of Easterners all the way as far as Moncton, New Brunswick with Hermel. So yeah, lots and lots and lots. And then we've got, of course, our Westerners. Oops.
Whoa, we got all blurry. Okay, let's both go forward. Let's both come back. There we go.
Okay. So
just like real estate investment, right, guys? Things seem super clear at one moment, and the next moment, everything seems blurry.
Yeah. And, there's lots of, we're going to talk a little bit more about this part last week, right, Joan? What should we be doing? We're going to talk more about it, next week in that we're going to introduce some stories of people that have, paid those 16% interest rates and still made money as investors, been in markets that have crashed, or maybe industry or the one main employer has left, and all these different things that have happened, legislation changes on people, just all the stuff that can happen as investors that can make us go, does this still work? So next week, we're going to introduce you to some of those people. This week, we're going to talk about, again, like what Corey said, how do we mitigate it?
Pivot.
We pivot. And Sean and Andrea, I'll just kind of highlight that again. So Sean and Andrea are partnering with Adrian out in Halifax, and they're, partnering on this property. Things have changed in one day, and all of a sudden they're looking for private lenders, short-term money, bridge loan, great interest rates, which is fantastic. That wasn't their plan. And now by the end of this week, they need to have that money raised. So, what do? We pivot. That's what we do as investors. Does it mean, the game is done and the deal is over and that's it for us? No, it doesn't. But let's talk about what it does mean. Let's talk about some of those things.
Yeah, first of all, what is belief? Let's define it, guys. This is what Google says. If you put in define belief in Google, it says this. 2 definitions. 1, an acceptance that a statement is true or that something exists. Okay,
so is it true that real estate investing changes lives? Is it true that real estate investing gives us freedom?
Those
that
are
it
statements.
Can buy us wealth. It can buy us choice in our life. Those are statements. Do we believe them? And how do we come to believe them?
So do we accept those statements? Now, here's the second definition. I think this ties in really, really well, is trust, faith, or confidence in something or someone. So when we're talking real estate investment, do you trust the process? Do you trust the strategy that you're doing? Do you trust the decisions you're making? Do you have faith that it's going to work? Do you have the confidence? And how do we build that up? That's really what the meat and potatoes of tonight, guys, is how do we build up our trust, our faith, our confidence, our belief in this strategy of creating wealth called real estate investment. So that's what is defined as. But let's now talk about why it's important for us to be talking about this. We're going to go over 3 main reasons why it's important that we talk about belief. Okay, so number 1, if we don't have it, we won't take action.
If you don't believe that real estate is going to buy you all of these things, you're just going to keep on sitting on the sidelines and watching until you believe, learning until you believe, doing whatever. Start. We'll never start.
And maybe we did start. Important. Maybe we did start, but we're not going to keep going. We're not going to get to the point that we always wanted to, that our original plan was to get to. So
this is really touchy-feely, and this is really like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. But no, guys, if you haven't started in real estate, if you haven't, or if you're struggling to keep going and keep scaling, a lot of the reason is probably because you don't believe. If you believed what it could do for you in your life, you'd be all in 100%, sell your house, live in a tent, make it happen, right? But when you don't have belief, that's when you go at it a whole lot slower, more calculated, which is good. You want to be doing that. But belief is what's going to give you the courage to jump. Okay, so that's why it's important. That's why we're talking about this tonight.
So I want to see in the comments, guys, who here was afraid to start? Okay, so let's go back to when, and maybe some of you haven't started yet, but who had fear when they went to go and purchase their first investment property? Or who had fear when they went to go sign those mortgage papers?
Yeah.
Or who had fear when they started going out with the realtor and had to start putting in offers? When you were about to get started, did you have fear? Let's see it in the comments. Okay, guys? Throw it in there. I was. Who wasn't? Me. I'm a believer. Heck yeah. Heart beating out of your chest. Absolutely. Yeah.
Myrna, Lisa,
it's nerve-wracking,
Sylvia.
Right? And that's because our belief isn't yet built up strong enough. And right at the very beginning, we hear these things happening. We hear other people did it. We see other people having success. But if we haven't done it yet, sometimes it's not strong enough. So why is it important to talk about belief? Because when those heart-pounding times come, when we go to put in that offer, when we go to buy that first property, we will actually do it if we have belief in this process. Number 2, why is it important to talk about this subject is because without belief, if we don't believe it, guys, nobody around us is going to as well. And that includes potential partners, potential joint venture partners, potential private lenders, even the banks and the other experts that we need on our team. If we don't believe we're going to do it, if we don't have belief, then we're not going to be able to convince anyone around us that to work with us. And these are people that we need on our team. So that's point number 2. Number 3, we talk about this all the time, every single boot camp, but our why and reaching our why, the whole purpose of us investing in real estate in the first place, is dependent on us having belief. So is it important, guys? Do we talk about this all the time. Why are you here tonight? We have right now live 53 different people live with us that are taking time out of their busy lives and coming and listening and talking about belief. Why is it important? Because obviously you're trying to reach some goal. You're trying to reach your why. And if we don't have that belief, we're not going to get to that finish line. So we see some solid reasons why it's important for us to be talking about this tonight.
So I just want to take a peek back to it. All these people that are saying, like, did we have fear? Heck yeah. Hey Kevin, Leo saying yes. Liz. So Liz is killing it right now. Chris, there's so many. Ashifa's got super sweet project going on. Stacy and Tyson, my goodness, the things that they're doing. Joan, Gord have changed their lives completely. There's so many people on here who are saying, yeah, we were fearful 100%. That fear is going to be there. But what makes the difference? I think it was Ashley that said it took Ryan and I 2 years to get going. So what makes the difference, though? What makes the difference is seeing others. When you see that someone else has done it, you can absolutely believe it, right? So that's now they're doing it. But what did they need at the beginning? Part of it was to see what others were doing.
Yeah, that definitely helps. And that Tiff is given little hints as to one of our 3 things that will build belief that we're going to be talking about later. So, but before we get to how we can build this up, guys, how we can make it stronger, we're going to talk about things that erode our belief. And we touched on this earlier as well, because it's important. These things hit us all the time. We are going to come across it. We open our phones in the morning, we look at the news, we're going to see these things. We talk to people around us, we're going to see these things. So what 3 things are the top things that can erode our belief in this process? And as we go through this, guys, I want you to put in the comments, yes, this is me, or yes, I see this all the time, because the more we acknowledge that, we acknowledge this stuff happening around us, the easier it's going to be to build that belief when we need to. So 3 things that erode it. Number 1, we talked about this already, news reports. We're sitting in a newsroom right now, and who turns on the news and hears anything good these days? I just want to share with you. I Googled real estate in Canada about, an hour ago. Here's the top headlines that come up, guys. The standard home in Canada now costs twice as much as the US. A plan to rein in the stunning boom is a test for housing markets. Speculation playing a role in red-hot home prices. Peterborough real estate called most overvalued in Canada. Is Toronto's market finally cooling? Experts say they're seeing signs it's slowing down. Market downturn predicted. Guys, those are just some of the highlights when you Google Canada real estate right now. Does any of that sound good? No. Does good news reports sell newspapers? No. This is what comes up all the time.
So this is the number one thing that can derail erode your belief is, for one, investing your time into those. Now, do we need to know what's going on? Absolutely. Is there some value in seeing these kinds of things? Absolutely. But do we need to be, searching it and into it and just, looking for every single little piece of bad news that we can find? Is that going to help you in changing your life and doing and hitting this journey, or is that just going to feed the fear? So be balanced. We need to know these things. We need to see these things, absolutely, but be balanced in what we feed our minds with.
Yeah. So throw it in the comments, guys. Who here has seen a news report, let's say in the last month, that has made them think, second guess themselves when it comes to investing
even
in
just
real estate?
for a second?
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I did. I've seen news reports that are like that for a second or two. I was like, but then what's the difference? We have a belief in the system. We've seen it work, guys. We've seen it work not only in our situation, but in so many other people around us, that then the belief can take over when we see these negative things. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later, that belief is not based on just how we feel. We're going to talk about how we can build that up solidly. But
And
when these things happen, we can get down for sure.
And everyone's saying like, yeah, we've had this happen to us. Okay, this is a normal occurrence in investors' lives. Yet a lot of these investors are still killing it in real estate and doing well. So not just buying real estate, but doing well. There's a difference between buying real estate and doing well and buying real estate, right? These guys are still doing well. So I have a question for you. How do we know that someone can swim? Oh, we just lost the. How do you know that someone can swim? Just answer that right now.
Okay, we gotta go back.
Sorry, not humans. Okay, we're both going back.
I don't know what you're supposed to do.
I just did this last time.
Okay.
Focused it on that. There we go.
There we go.
How do we know that human beings can swim? I know it's a silly question, but how do you know? Okay, jump in the water. That's how we're going to learn to swim. But how do we know that human beings in general can swim? That they're not going to be like, get in the water and sink to the bottom of it. The way we know it is that we've seen other human beings swim, right? We've seen it. So we know it can be done. Same thing in real estate here. We've seen it. We know it can be done. Toss them in the water, right, Liz? Now, we've seen others in real estate doing things. We've seen that it can be done. But does that mean that we have the faith to jump in the water ourselves in a big, huge, deep pool? Just because we've seen other people doing it? It's good. It gives us belief. But it doesn't mean that we know how to swim, right? Having these news reports that come out takes that courage and says, look, I know maybe they can do it, but I don't know that I can do it. And that erodes what we're looking for. So yeah, we know it can happen, but what about us? News is one of the hardest things. What's number 2?
Well, let's just go a little bit farther on the news reports. And I know it's been mentioned here in the comments, so maybe we can just bring some of those up. But who was it here that said interest rates, something about interest rates?
It's there.
Okay. Anyways, I don't know where it is, but those are some of the things we're hearing right now. Okay. Interest rates are going up. Does that affect us as investors? Absolutely. It affects us as investors. It's something we need to be aware of. We need to run our numbers properly beforehand. We need to make sure that we're having enough cash flow so that if interest rates do go up and go up maybe dramatically, that we will still be able to stay above water. These are things that are important as investors to be aware of. But when we see them go up a quarter point or even half a point or even a full interest rate point, how does that affect us? Do we know? Have we run the numbers? So these are the things that we're going to talk about even a little bit later, and how to build our belief is really getting solid evidence. But when we see the headlines of, as was brought out, interest rates, or we see headlines about a bubble in a particular market, and maybe we own properties in that particular market, or we see negative headlines about whatever it has to do, vacancy rates, whatever it might be in connection with real estate investment, we don't want to focus on all of that.
So take a tip from Brandon. He said, it always pops up in my feed. He's like, okay, I got to stop clicking on them. Right? I mean, there's a time and a place, and information is good, but maybe we need to stop clicking just a little bit more.
So that's number 1 that can erode our belief is news reports, news headlines. Number 2, has anybody have in their circle of influence, your circle of friends, maybe your family, do you have any naysayers?
No.
Do you have anybody around you that says
everyone's a massive believer in real estate?
You're a crazy person for investing in real estate? Have you ever had a conversation with somebody that isn't on the same page when it comes to real estate investment? Throw it in the chat, guys, if you know anybody that is a naysayer when it comes to real estate investment. This is something that can erode our belief.
Almost everyone, heck yeah.
And don't you notice that everybody you talk to seems to be an expert? I mean, you can go to the coffee shop, you can go to the restaurant in the morning, you can go anywhere, and you're going to see people talking about the market, talking about house prices, talking about the cost of rent, talking about these sorts of things. And there's going to be naysayers. There's going to be people that are talking about this because they read the headline, but they didn't read the article. Or they read the headline, but they haven't done any research. And so even though there's a lot of people that consider themselves experts in this industry, who are we listening to when it comes to getting our advice?
That's a good point.
And, you know, one thing Tiff always brings out about our family or our friends is that they may be doing it with the right motives. They're trying to help us. They're trying to talk us out of doing it because
they're doing it out of love and concern. They just care, right? They're just like, oh, you know, you've worked so hard, don't wreck it now. So don't blame them for it, but also don't blindly take what they're saying. You need to verify what they're saying. Take a look at it and make sure that you know what you're doing. You know through numbers, not through speculation, thoughts, opinions, and ideas.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so news reports, naysayers. Those are two of the ways that can erode our belief, guys. Number 3 could be a bad experience when it comes to real estate investment. Maybe we became, or someone we know, maybe those family or friends around us, became accidental landlords and ended up being an investor without even knowing they were an investor, and things didn't go well. They weren't following a system. They had bad tenants because they didn't screen them properly. A bad experience that one person has can have an effect on a lot of different people around them. So if our first experience ended up being a bad experience, or maybe our parents' first experience ended up being a bad experience, these types of things can erode our belief in the system that we can actually become successful at this game.
So we've talked about why it's important to talk about it, like why as investors we need to know this stuff. We talked about the 3 things that can erode our belief and what we need to be cautious of. So again, what do we feed our minds in those news reports? Those naysayers, who are we listening to? Do they know what they're talking about? Have they been around? And that includes newer investors. And, you know, it's great to say, oh man, I've done so great in a great market. Well, yeah, that's easy. How about those who've been around long enough to see those dips and those things that do work and don't work, right? So what are we listening to there? What are we filling our minds with? And, you know, what are we basing it on? Are we basing it on an early, inexperienced, accidental / uneducated experience that we've had, or someone that we know has had? Or are we basing it on proper real estate investing? So someone might call themselves an investor because they own a couple properties, or maybe they inherited them, or maybe they moved out of one and couldn't sell it, so ended up rented it. And so it seems like they're an investor. They've had rental property for 10 years. But are they running it like an investor? Are they running a business, or are they, you know, barely holding on to being investors? So those are the 3 things that can erode our belief that we need to watch out for. And the good news, because we want to talk about good news on this show, the good news is that there's 3 things that we can do to be building belief.
And of course, there's lots more things that can erode that. There's lots more things that we can use to build. We have time today to talk about the 3 most important in our minds. And so, like Tiff said, let's talk about the positive now. So 3 things that can build belief. Any guesses, guys? What would help you to build belief in the system? Throw it in the chat if you have any guesses.
So many
as to what to you has helped you as an investor. If you've owned a few properties, if you're having some success, what helps you have belief? Okay, we'll just give you a second before we go into our top 3 to see what you guys are coming up with. So Sylvie here says education. That definitely is something that can help build belief. If We need to know what we're doing, right? We need to educate ourselves. Nadine, surround yourself with like-minded people. Karina, I love it. Watching you guys. That's great.
Thanks, Karina.
Positive peers. We have education, community, positive, like-minded people. I like this, Chris. Stats Canada data. Okay. Knowledge of the systems, Liz says. Community support. A lot of people here saying the people I surround myself with, learning, education, asking questions. These are all very, very important.
So let's talk about 3 of these things. And if we had to bring them down to a theme, then that a lot of these experienced investors are saying, we can bring it down to 3 main things, I think, that we're all seeing. So I love this too. Data on long-term successes, Linda. Yeah. So these 3 things come down to the 3 things that Corey has written down. Number 1,
solid evidence, facts, data, research. Do you get the point, guys? Is we're not going off of what someone thinks might happen. We're not going off of, oh, well, I think that the market is going to do this. Now, does that mean that we can predict what a market is going to do with a crystal ball, even though we do all the research? No, we can't predict everything. But are we going to be far more educated if we are looking at data, if we are looking at the numbers, and if we are looking at solid evidence as to how a certain strategy works, what works numbers wise and what doesn't work numbers wise? Guys, if we make our decision based on solid evidence, on the facts, on reliable data, that is going to help to build our belief.
Absolutely.
So where do we get that? Let's talk about a few places that we can turn to get solid evidence or some facts, some data when it comes to building our belief. We can research our market. And we had a Tuesday training on this not long ago about where we can turn to do some market research. In fact, that was the Friday night of our boot camp. We talked about some of the places that we can turn to when it comes to market research. There's a lot of places that we can turn. What are some suggestions from your?
So in general, guys, we know, let's go back to the last 50 years. If we had, been able to buy 10 houses 50 years ago, would we be winning today or would we be losing today? I don't care what market you're in across Canada. I don't care. What's the answer? Would we be winning or losing if we had bought houses 50 years ago? The answer is yes. So we know that we are going to, go from here to here in real estate in the long term. So what we don't, know is the dips and turns that got us there. But there's numbers that support that. So you can find out what has the average house gone up for the last 50 years, not only across Canada, not only across a province, but in markets. If those numbers aren't available, you can create them, put them in a spreadsheet, or go to a service like Fiverr.com and find a spreadsheet whiz or a research whiz and ask them to do it. And I bet you it would cost you under $50. Find what the average price is. Let's say you're going to be investing for 25 years. Let's say you want to know every 25-year period in 5-year increments over the last 100 years. What has the real estate market done in 25-year increments?
In your particular market.
In your particular market. You can hire for $50, I'm sure of it, or less, somebody that can find that data for you if you don't know how to find it yourself. And they can graph it and they can put it in. Now when someone says to you, or when your brain says to you, you're crazy, what are you doing? This market's going down. Or when you see the first signs of the market going down for real, and it is going down, and it is happening, and your property that was worth this is now worth this. And you start going, oh my gosh, what did we do? Then you go back to that data and you can easily go, okay, I'm not planning to sell next year. I'm not planning to sell in 5 years. I've got a 20-year window, or I've got a 10-year window. What are my chances that things are going to go up? Well, in the history of my market, over a 20-year window, things have gone up 6%. Now, if I did that, how would that look for me? Run those numbers at 6%. Okay, I'm going to be okay. Maybe they've only gone up 1%. I don't think there's any market in Canada probably that, like, any decent sized market in Canada that has only gone up 1% in 25 years. However, what if it had? So put those numbers in. Okay, what if it stays flat for 25 years? We did an article when we were writing for Canadian Real Estate Wealth magazine. We did an article. What if you buy a property and it doesn't go up? The market doesn't go up at all. It is a zero appreciation. Do you still buy it? How do those numbers work out? And we broke down all the numbers. So, what do? It's that solid evidence. It's that facts. It's out there. And if it's not, you can create it for yourself, because that's the stuff you have to come back to get your head in the game when you read those headlines, have those naysayers, and or reflect on a bad experience that you kind of go, wow, I got burned. I don't know if I want to do this again.
And you know what? There's a lot of things you can do ahead of time. So we talked about earlier about interest rates going up, and we see the headlines and we get scared and all of that sort of stuff. But this is something that we can do a little bit of work on, a little bit of research ahead of time. Maybe your mortgage is locked in for a couple of years. Maybe it's locked in for 5 more years. Maybe we're on a variable. So depending on what type of mortgage product we have on our investment properties, do we know what our payments are, what's going to happen to our payments if it does go up another half a point, if it does go up another full percentage point? How is that going to affect our cash flow at that time? Can we plan ahead for these types of things if it may come in the future?
Now,
we don't have to be shocked with it when it comes. We can know this stuff well ahead of time.
And the beautiful part of things, like, we heard, what was it? I don't know, maybe 2-3 years ago, they were stress testing all of our mortgages. And all of a sudden it was like, oh no, the sky is falling. Real estate investing is, the market's going to slow down. This is huge. We now have to qualify on our mortgages as if it's at 5.5%. I think that was the number, 5.5%. So if the interest, but I'm only paying 2%, but the bank is acting as if I'm paying 5.5%. Well, that sucks. I can't qualify for as much now. Well, guess what, guys? That bought us peace of mind. And when everyone else was saying this sucks, I'm going, no, I love it, because you know what? We're protecting our newbie investors from bad decisions. So you guys are already, and you didn't even know it, you're already tested as if you guys are paying 5.5% on mortgages. And can it still be sustainable by your income, by your credit, by the property, all of those things? So you've already been stress tested, but can you stress test yourself some more? At what point am I going to have to make some changes?
Yeah.
And yes, again, that cold, hard facts, that is what takes the emotion out. And it's inarguable. Inarguable? Is that the word? You can't argue it. It's facts.
Yeah. Yeah. And so these are some of the things, guys. Can you see how that can help to increase our belief? That can help to remove some of the fear. So when we do see any headlines out there that say interest rates may go up, or interest rates are expected to go up, or whatever it might be, these negative things, we have the belief that's strong enough. We know, we have a plan. We know ahead of time how we're going to deal with it, how we're going to get around it. And we've done the numbers ahead of time. And so maybe we're lock in some mortgages now. Maybe that's our strategy if those things affect us and we can't sleep at night and that sort of thing. So there's strategies that we can do. And that's the point, guys. Thinking ahead, having solid evidence, having the facts, doing the research ahead of time can really help to build that belief.
So just want to kind of even rephrase it. So that solid evidence and facts, it comes down to education. So is that education that we have created, or education that we get from somebody else, or education that we create, like a lot of these comments are saying, we get the stats, that knowledge, all of that thing. That's what's going to help us. And if you don't know where to get it and you don't have the time to look for it, sign up for a program or a newsletter service or whatever it is that does provide that kind of information for you. It's not rocket science, guys.
And so we've been talking about market research and getting the facts, getting the solid evidence when it comes to a market. But there's so many other aspects of this business that we need to do a little bit of research ahead of time. We can dig into it because it's only going to help our belief. We can look into what are the best properties to be buying in a particular market. What are the best neighborhoods to be buying in that particular market? Which ones rent out the easiest for the tenant demographic that you choose to rent to? If we know these things ahead of time, we have some solid research. We've made some phone calls to the experts in our area. Maybe we've talked to some property managers. We've talked to our realtors. We've talked to the experts that are doing that in that particular region at that time. It's only going to help our belief. It's only going to help us feel more confident and remove the fear when it comes to real estate investing.
So now let's look at number 2. We saw this a lot too in the comments. I'm just going back with someone. Okay, there we go. There's one. Liz, follow the path of people who have done it. Educating ourselves as Shifa, being surrounded by like-minded individuals. The people that I surround myself with, being educated in a group, good, all of this stuff, guys, it is key. And let's talk about number 2. Why is it key that
Your network. Your network. What's the number 2 thing that we can do to build our belief? Have people around you that are doing it. It just makes sense. It's kind of like what Tiff said with the swimmer earlier. How do we know that a human being can swim in general? Well, because we've seen other humans swim. How do we know that we can run? Well, because other people run. How do we know that we can invest in real estate? Well, other people are doing it, guys, and they're doing it successfully.
And they've done it.
But are we hanging out with them? Are we asking them questions? If we run into a stumbling block, do we have somebody that we can use as a resource to get us over that stumbling block? So important to have a network of support around us, a network of experts around us, because there are going to be times when we need to rely on them. One of the things we talked about earlier, one of the things that can erode our belief was naysayers. So to counteract the negative that we hear from people that are uneducated and not doing it, why don't we surround ourselves with positive, like-minded people that are doing it? It only makes sense, doesn't it?
Oh, sorry. There we go. I love it. You're the average of 5 people that are around you. Be around investor type people. So that's the thing. They say both in your net worth, but in your personality, your level of happiness, you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So who are you spending time with? Are they positive? Are they investors? Great. We don't have to surround just our life with investors, but in our investor world, who are we surrounding ourselves with?
I'll give you an example. If I was having some doubt when it came to real estate investment, and I was starting to wonder, is Canada a good place to be investing right now? Well, I would probably reach out to Grant. Grant does his research.
Grant
and
is amazing.
Grant and Kareen, and they know what they're talking about, and they know why a market is going to go up in value, and they know why certain things are happening, such as the stat that I'm putting on the screen here right now. Is this going to have an effect on our real estate market? Absolutely.
So, and just let me, sorry, I'm just going to leave that up one more second here. Why does Grant focus on this kind of information? He not happens to be, it's not a mistake. He's investing, him and Kareen are investing in an area that is directly impacted by in-migration. Now, when we see that these numbers are going up and heading in that direction, and we are investing and focused investing, he's developing whole subdivisions there. They are. When we see that, does it take away our fear when we're putting ourselves all in for that? But yet we know that in-migration is continuing to be a massive project for the Canadian government. Not only that, they're going to come into the area that they are investing in. Does that help Grant and Kareen to not have fear surrounding what's happening with the headlines, with the naysayers, with perhaps a bad experience that they've already had? It absolutely helps when they know this data. Now, does that data apply to everyone? Is that going to apply in, small town northern Saskatchewan? Maybe not. But is it going to apply in Chatham, where they're investing and focusing directly will it impact that? Absolutely. So you need to know what is going to impact your market, and then you need to find the data to support that so that you don't go crazy every time you see one of those headlines and have your stomach fall or not be able to sleep or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And so we see the importance, guys, of being together as a group here in Fearless. It is an awesome space to be able to ask questions. It's an awesome space to be able to support one another and to receive education. But I want you to ask yourself, who do you rely on when it comes to getting you over the hurdles in real estate investment? Who do you rely on when it comes to jumping over those fences that are put in front of you? We all rely on somebody. We all need mentorship. We all need coaching. We all need education. We all need a network around us. And so just think about that right now. Who do you rely on when it comes to real estate investing? Okay. And hopefully you have an answer to that question, because if you do have an answer to that question, it's only going to help you build belief. And if you don't have somebody that you rely on at this particular moment, then find someone. Super, super important. Someone that will help you get over those hurdles, answer those questions when you need them answered.
Absolutely.
So that's number 1 and 2, guys. Solid evidence, the network around you, both extremely important. And number 3 is also extremely important. And it's one that a lot of people hold back on doing. And number 3, in our opinion, that will help you build belief is to do it.
Jump in, guys.
If you want to learn how to swim, what do? You jump in, right?
Okay.
Hopefully with somebody there to help you.
Yeah.
But you jump in and you start learning.
So I don't know how to swim. I never did learn as a kid. I don't know how to swim. But I'm never going to learn. I can wade water. Is that what it's called? Swade water. Anyways, I can float and keep my head up above water. But
I can't think of the word.
Swade?
No, not swade.
Wade. I can wade water.
No, tread water.
I can tread water.
Tread water.
Okay, so guys, I can do that much, but how do I know?
Swade is not even a word.
I'm thinking waves. I don't know. Anyways, tread water. Thank you, June. Tread. There we go. So I know that I can tread water because I eventually got in the water one day. But did I jump in the deep end of the pool one day? I know some people's parents taught them that way. And just figure out if I knew how to swim? Heck no, I'm still afraid of water. But did I, put my toe in? Did I check the temperature of it? Did I put on a life jacket or make sure I had a floaty of some sort? And then slowly did I go from the swing? Oh my goodness. So did I, slowly go in and work myself in? Yeah, I did. But guess what? I had to try it to know if I could do it. There was no amount of reading. There was no amount of research, watching Olympic swimmers, understanding, how air impacts the lungs or the body or whatever. All of that was great and helps. But none of that was going to teach me and allow me to know that I can tread water, know it if I had to and my life was depending on it. None of that was going to teach me to do that until I got in the water. And again, Corey mentioned it. You're not just going to jump into the end of the pool, the deep end. You are going to take a life raft. You're going to have a net. You're going to have someone there to help. You're going to have something. But guys, you got to jump in the water.
And here's the thing, guys. When we go back to when we first started, when we had that fear, when we were doing the research, when we were getting the education, when we were building a solid foundation as to where our belief in this whole system of real estate investing came from, it took us, a year and a half of educating ourselves, a year and a half of doing the research before we actually took step number 3.
And let me tell you,
actually did it.
This wasn't a year and a half of reading books.
No.
This was a year and a half of networking, going to events, reading books, tapes, seminars, practicing, doing courses.
CDs while we drive.
This was a year and a half of immersion, okay?
Yeah.
And still yet, it took us that long because fear is a real thing, and we understand that. And right now, as you're going to see markets turning, we're going to be talking about this for a little while, guys, because we know it's going to take a little bit to get it into everyone's heads that, yeah, do we have to pivot? Yeah. Do we have to adjust? Yeah, for sure. But does this mean that we missed the boat in real estate investing? Heck no, you guys. This just because we've had free money at 1.25% on our mortgages for the last 7-8 years, just because we've been handed one of the best opportunities in our generation for investing in real estate, doesn't mean that now that things are getting back to normal, which, guys, this is just normal. It's just you haven't seen that yet. It does not mean in any way, shape, or form that we've missed the boat. Okay, so hopefully that you hear, loud and clear. No, it is not too late to be investing in real estate. Do we have to do it a little different? Yeah. But we always have. We've had to pivot a bazillion times.
And to just reiterate that point, guys, about it can if you feel like you're treading water, you're not going anywhere, you're not quite swimming yet, you haven't bought a property yet, and it's taking longer than you had anticipated at the beginning. It took us a year and a half to get going of educating ourselves and all that stuff. But once we did one, and this is the point, guys, once we just stepped out, we jumped into that pool, we started treading water, we bought our first property. Once that happened, we ended up buying over 100 properties in the next 2.5 years. So what helped us build that belief? What helped us to be able to be confident enough to speak to others about it, because our belief was strong enough? It was doing it. That's the bottom line. So if it can be tough, but if we followed step 1 and 2, we've done the research, we've looked at the data, we know how to talk to others about that data. We also have a network of people supporting us and around us. Then we jump into that water, we do it, and that will build belief as well.
I have a presentation coming up to a bunch of kids this week here. And so I was prepping for my little presentation. And one of the questions, I can't remember what the question was actually, but the answer immediately came to me was, oh, what motto do you repeat to yourself when you're having a hard time? Or did you repeat to yourself? And my motto, one of them, I did have a couple, but I think the one that made the biggest difference for me was leap, and the net will appear. I got it on one of those motivational calendars, and I ripped it out of the calendar after the year was done, and I kept that piece on my wall. Leap, and the net will appear. So, guys, you know what you've been through in your life. You know what you've done and figured out. You know the job that you weren't equipped for that you ended up rocking at. You know the test that you thought you were going to fail that you ended up passing, whether it was barely or more, doesn't really matter. You got through it. You know that day that you had to hold someone's hand through a really, really rough time and you didn't have the tools for it, but you figured it out. You know all of these things that you are going to get this done if you need to. But unless you leap, there's never going to be that chance to test it. So you know you're going to get this done. You know you've got the tools. If you don't have them, someone in your network has them. If you don't have a good network, get one, guys. Invest in it. It is absolutely worth it. There is nothing like having the knowledge that there is a whole troop or tribe worth of people that are going to be working on your problem with you.
Yeah.
And that is massive. So leap and the net will appear. Make sure there is a net. Don't be leaping if there's no net or no lifesaver or no floaty.
Yeah.
But
water wings.
But do leap. Yes, water wings. I used water wings.
I know you still do.
I do not. I do not.
I love it. Okay, so that's the thing, guys. And so one thing that I'm going to say regarding all of that, when it comes to doing it and jumping in, that doesn't mean you just jump in and buy 25 properties. That doesn't mean you jump in and buy an apartment building. What we're talking about here is test out the process. Jump in and buy one property. Okay, that's all we're talking about here. Buy one. And you know what happens when you buy one? You see, oh, that wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be. Or, oh,
that worked out okay.
Yeah, people were interested in investing with me.
Yeah.
Or, oh my goodness, the numbers, the cash flow that's coming in every month is increasing my mortgage qualification. So these things start to happen, guys, where when you actually do it, it can start to snowball from there. But we don't want you to think about that now. We want you to think about doing it once. If you're sitting on the fence, you haven't done it yet, think about one property. And for those of you that already have properties, for those of you that already have maybe 5, 6, 8, 10, 20, whatever it might be, your next focus is your next one property. And just keep that as a focus. It's a lot easier.
And guys, I just want to, I know I don't often do this, but I want to just highlight for you, if you guys are looking for a place to place money, short term, you'll get it back quickly. I'm sure there's some sort of security involved. I don't know the full story, but guys, there's some great way for you to just get your feet wet, get a return on your money in a very short period of time. From there might be more opportunity for you to invest in the project more and have longer. But you know, sometimes a short-term deal will just be like, oh, okay, wow, I made money. Okay, I got money in my bank. Wow, my fear is a little bit overtaken. So if you're looking for something, there is an opportunity here. It is a short-term like timeline or whatever, short turnaround.
Not with us. Let's be clear on that.
Not with us. But with one of our Ignited, or four of our Ignited members that are partnering on an awesome property in Halifax. So I don't usually do massive shout outs like that, but guys, it's a good way for all of us to just get our feet wet, leap. There's that net. These guys know what they're doing. They've done it before. They can tell you the plan. They can tell you how the numbers work out. And you get a short-term return on your money and kind of go, okay, that one worked out okay. Now, do you have a little more courage to try something again or whatever it might be? So, but you do have to start somewhere. So start somewhere small.
Yeah, I think they have a post in Fearless, guys. So if something like that interests you, just go and check out the post and take it from there.
Yeah, you betcha.
Awesome. So some good points today, guys. I hope that you can take these 3 building blocks to building up our belief, creating faith in the system, creating confidence, so that not only is it confidence for ourselves, but it's confidence when we see those negative news reports. It's confidence when we hear those naysayers around us. And when we need it, we will have that confidence to keep us going so that we don't quit when the times get difficult. All right.
Guys, action
next
steps.
Week, and Tiff, yes, action steps. Here you go, guys. 2 action steps to get going. This is your homework for this week. If what we said today resonates with you, okay? Number 1, start researching markets. The market that you are thinking of buying in, maybe it's a good one. Maybe there's better ones out there. You should know why you're investing in a particular market. So start doing that research. Base it on solid evidence, guys. Number 2, start creating relationships with other successful investors. Start networking with other real estate investors. Learn strategies. Learn how they're doing it. Learn what works in today's market. 2 things you can start doing, guys. Some market research, some networking. Those are some action steps that you can take from our training today. So next week, we are going to be bringing on people that are doing this stuff, guys. We're going to be interviewing
who did it with issues. Okay.
Yes.
The interest rates didn't work out. Maybe they had to go to a secondary lender and they thought they were going to qualify at 1.25%. And all of a sudden they had to qualify at 6%. Did the numbers still work? Did it still work out for them? How did it work out, 3 years later? This isn't like newbie. This is, how's it working out for those that have taken that leap and are still standing in it, and why? And we want to inspire belief by introducing you to some of these people that have done it, telling you some of their stories for those that won't be joining us, and really just saying, guys, it's here. It can happen. Just like, when you see someone on the Olympics, I'm like, wow. People the human body can do this. I should be able to do this. And that kind of stuff inspires belief, especially when you meet and hear from them. So that's what we're going to be doing next week. Join us back. And for you Igniteds, we will see you over in Laser. We've got a very exciting, fun laser session tonight. So looking forward to that one for sure. And we'll see you guys over there on Zoom. And